Welcome back to another episode of Re-Correlated Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Natalie Baker. Tonight we have Jules DePrima joining us. She is from now on going to be one of our awesome rotating co-hosts so that it's not just me being awkward on screen whenever someone is unavailable. And that's perfectly great. So she kind of just frees up some of the hosts on their free time because we all are like kind of presenting at different conferences and stuff like that. So helps us out a lot with that. So thanks, Jules. And tonight we have a very special guest, like every Thursday night. Tonight we have AJ Yawn. He is, a military veteran. And then I saw that you transitioned from the military and you worked at Coalfire and like SOC 2 and ISO. And then you kind of started your own company. You're just like, yep, I'm going to go do my own thing. And you became like a founder and CEO of ViteCheck. And then, you're a SANS instructor, most current role being a director of GRC engineering at our wonderful company, Acquia. So shout out there. Anything I left out, please feel free to add in there, AJ. Tell us about how you kind of came into cyber.
Yeah, I think you did a great job and make me sound a lot better and cooler than I probably am. But I think the coolest part about that whole thing is where I'm at now. I'm truly loving being at Acquia, being a director of GRC engineering. It's really full circle, honestly, because you talked about I was in the Army and then I got to Coalfire and was doing all this audit stuff. And that's where I got addicted to automating compliance and AWS and just figuring it. I went back recently to try to find it because I was talking to a buddy of mine. And he was like, "Man, this is so cool. You're in this GRC engineering role because you've been talking about this since like I remember back in 2018." And I went and found an article that I wrote about like literally what we're doing on a day-to-day basis here. And it's full circle because it's what I'm passionate about. It's what I care about. I think if I think about my start in cyber, I tell the people this all the time. I got really lucky. I think coming out of the military, I was a signal officer, so I did some communications and technology work. I worked in an artillery battalion at Fort Bragg, so not a lot less technical stuff than just getting yelled at and being outside and sleeping outside, but was a great learning experience from a leadership perspective. But then I landed at Coalfire, and that was just awesome because when I joined, there was about 9 of us building out the SOC 2 practice. Then we built ISO on top of that, did HIPAA, did high trust, and I just got exposed to so many companies at different stages. Some of the biggest companies that are out there now were early stage startups when I was doing their SOC 2. So it was fascinating. And really, I started to interact with a ton of startup founders. And that's what gave me the confidence to go out and start my own company during the pandemic. Highly don't recommend. If there's a pandemic, don't start a company. Not a great choice. But it worked out, right? So yeah, I think I just got lucky. I landed in a really good place at Coalfire and took that opportunity to grow, learn as much as I can, put the work in, and it worked out.
Yeah, I would say I can relate because I got really lucky and I've had to work my way in from like IT into cybersecurity, but like kind of got real lucky with that one like company that took a chance on me and kind of came in. Ooh, house is on. And kind of just like really built my technical career, and then on top of it layered in the cybersecurity. So I can definitely understand that, but it's not all luck because a lot of it is brain as well. So tonight's topic, we are talking about portfolios and why it's important to have portfolios. So if we want to do kind of hot takes going around the room, AJ, you are a guest, so you can go first with your hot take on the subject.
Yeah, I think right now, we hear so much about the job market. We hear so much about people trying to break into cyber and how do they stand out? How do I get rid of the entry-level role that's requiring 7 years of experience? How do I get it behind needing all of these certifications, whatever it may be? I think in other fields, whether it's software engineering, design, we see people that have very little experience build portfolios to show their skill sets. And it's something that I don't know if it's come into the GRC world yet. And I'm starting to kind of promote it. And I'm like, hey, like we should, because technical skills are becoming more important in GRC the more that we're interacting with cloud environments and all the different resources where people are storing data and that we have to assess. So why not, as a way to stand out amongst the masses, build a portfolio that says, I may not have 10 years of experience. I may not have been doing SOC 2 or FedRAMP, whatever it is, for 10 years, but look what I've built. look what I can do, look what I can show, look at the thought process. And then I'm a big proponent of learning in public and building in public. And I think that helps recruiters, potential hires. A lot of times people think about networking, it's about who you know. I don't believe that. I think it's about who knows you and what do they know that you know. Because if I know Jules and I know, okay, I just saw Jules post about this thing that she built. Oh, okay. I heard about this job opportunity. I can recommend you because I know that you just did something in that life. But if I just know her and it's like, oh, she's cool, good person, I can't recommend for opportunities because I don't know what she knows. And I think that's the part that a lot of folks, I mean, it's tough. Getting into the cyber industry is very hard. And if it wasn't hard, we wouldn't get paid the way we do and wouldn't have the lives that we have. It's a very important and hard job, right? So how do you stand out amongst the multitudes of people, whether degrees, boot camps, whatever it is? And I think portfolios are going to have to be a way. And I think there's an opportunity there for a lot of people who are trying to break in, like, how do I show my experience? How do I get in front of the recruiter? This, use LinkedIn, build in public, build a portfolio and show what you know.
Right. Who wants to follow that up? Hollis or Jules?
I got a hot take. I can go for it.
Yeah, go ahead. Go, Jules.
This is one of my favorite ones. In 2025, a resume is trash. There has been so much restriction put on what can go in your resume. It goes through an ATS before a human eye ever looks at it, and it gets, booted out. And if it doesn't conform to this very strict format of what your resume can be, no one's ever going to look at it. So you've got to conform. You've got to look good to that robot that's going to read your resume. Your portfolio is where you can really show your individuality, creativity, show how you put things together, where a resume isn't gonna allow you to put your money where your mouth is, kind of thing, and really stand out. Like AJ said, folks with different backgrounds who don't have work projects to show, you can take on passion projects that really could blow up online and in your network. So really make your resume what it has to be to get in the gate, and really let your portfolio shine for you.
All right. Like that hot take too. Hollis, what's your hot take? You're on mute. The IT guy is having... Are you on mute, Hollis? Are you like double muted? It's on your end. All right, so I'll go with my hot take. My hot take, and I'll let you figure out your mic. So my hot take is that it's also really great to have a brand that kind of incorporates all of those things as well, because the brand is really what's going to get you those opportunities where you have these projects that you can showcase the skill sets that you have, because people want to know you because they see your brand and they're like, oh, that's great. That's a great way to kind of like segue your way into having a relationship and like building a relationship with somebody. But don't just go and message random people on LinkedIn and be like, hey, can you please help me? Because like you get millions of messages a day. So that's my hot take. Hollis, are we good on mic? Nope.
Not yet. I'll say, as Hollis is figuring it out, I agree with both of your hot takes. I think I had a buddy recently who was looking for a job and he's like, can you review my resume? I was like, I'd rather not. I think there's probably 10 other things that I would love to do to help you other than look at your resume, because I'm not an ATS system and I just don't know how important it is. And I've been a hiring manager and I've hired a lot of people. A resume has never been that important in that decision for me. So I'm with you there, Jules. And then Natalie, I think having a brand makes you Teflon to a bad economy, a layoff, a downturn, whatever it is. Your brand helps you continue to be able to stand out and keep to being gainfully employed. Because again, it goes back to the strength of your network, the strength of the people that know you and that can reach out for you. And it's because you're out there. And I think there's an opportunity in cyber. Like there's a lot of people on LinkedIn. There's a lot of people that talk on LinkedIn, but I think there's an opportunity in cyber to be able to stand out amongst the masses. So sounds like we got you now, Hollis.
Yeah, I'm using I had to go through my phone now, right? So I do apologize if it's echoing. I got to set this thing up in a better place. Anyway, what I think about portfolios, right? I'm on the networking side of things. I'm not in security. I'm like partially in security. I do firewall management, Azure management, network management, right? To me, right, seeing somebody's skills, especially in the networking world, when I have somebody's portfolio in front of me or somebody's like projects or what they're learning, specifically like during the interview process, what I'll ask is, hey, I see these projects on your resume. Can you pull up whatever this project is? And I think I can hear it echoing, so I'm going to try a different spot. Basically what I'll do, right, is I'll say, can you pull up like GNS3 or whatever that you do your projects in, and can you walk me through what the process is in building that? Can you walk me through like, hey, if this issue came up in your lab, how would you approach that situation? And it gives me an opportunity to actually read the individual and see how they're going to process something, even if they're new to the space, right? Like I can actually see how they're going to fix something, look at something, and if they're inquisitive, right? Because security requires you to be inquisitive. You need to want that or have that drive to question, right? Security is a space where you have to look at the world as it is and kind of look at it and go, I mean, on today it looks normal, right? But in like 2 minutes, what if it isn't? So I think portfolios are fantastic. It gives me insight on who you are and how you troubleshoot and how you approach things. So
I think a point that you just made, Hollis, that is super important that I thought about it, but I didn't conceptualize until I heard you say it. It's one of the things that a portfolio does. At a minimum, it gives you something to talk about in an interview, because now you're gonna be able to say, oh, when I was working on this project where I built this thing to automate X or to test out how to get evidence from whatever it is, you now have a story to tell that's relevant to the potential position that you're going for. And a lot of times, and I'm sure other people on the call feel the same way, I'm not really asking the questions to understand, like, was it successful or what was the ROI out of this? I want to know how you learn. And I know in any technical project, there's challenges, there's bugs, there's issues, there's all kinds of things. So how did you go through the troubleshooting, problem solving process? And if you're doing these labs right, if you're building your portfolio right, there's going to be those moments of frustration where you want to throw your laptop out the window. Those are the moments you get to talk about, and the passion will come out in the interview. And it's like, all right, well, this person, they clearly care. They like this stuff because of the way that they were talking about this. So like, I think what you just said there, Hollis, is such a good important point for people that are listening to this to tap into. It's not just about the outcome. The process gives you so much to talk about, which is really cool.
Yeah, and it showcases that impact that you're making on like regardless of if it's a lab or you have this impact that you're capable of making. And like if I've already learned this on my own, imagine what I could do when I come in and I have some mentors along the way to help me kind of point me in the right direction. Like just imagine how far I can come along. Yes, hiring juniors has always been like one of my favorite things that like every company I required of them, because it's a lot of fun to kind of really conceptualize as a leader too. How do I teach to that kind of person? So AJ, I'm assuming you have a portfolio.
Yeah, I mean, I have, I would say I've been in a position where I haven't had to like use a portfolio going from startup founder to, I think I probably had more work on a portfolio before I founded my own company. But I'm actually building out a mock portfolio for GRC professionals to use as a template, but then also a bunch of labs for GRC professionals, because that's one thing that I realized, in my early days when I was trying to go and like validate some technical skills or just do things on AWS, I would have to just like find a well-architected AWS lab and try to finesse that to my GRC lens. There was never anything out there that's like, solve this GRC problem with this lab. And what I'm trying to build is that, so that GRC professionals have at least a starting point and a tip-off point to, one, just get your hands dirty. I think that is the most important part, is just go get your hands dirty, regardless of technical level. Just go do it, because that insight is just so impactful. So yeah, I don't know if I'm the right candidate for like seeing a portfolio because of just the last 5 or 6 years of my life from the founder journey. But my goal with some of the content that I'm putting out in this conversation is that I can, and the work that I'm kind of doing in my spare time, is I can create something that allows GRC professionals to feel confident in starting their own portfolio, which is really, it's just going to be a GitHub, set up a GitHub, be able to like fork some projects and write up some things and show it. Like, again, it's just showing what you're doing. And yeah, that's the goal.
Nice. So, very similarly to you back in the day, like, you used the portfolio very heavily, you got yourself in the right roles. And then from there, you kind of really you could tell the story without needing the, I mean, I have like reports in my portfolio. My portfolio was like back in the days when we were like not digital. So it was a binder, but that was always very easy to take into an interview with me because that was the conversation starter. And I could also put like my notepad and my pen inside the inside sleeve. And it would also have like all the handouts that I needed for them available and stuff like that. So, but I also do want to go and talk about like the transition, because I've seen really, really well presented, like being able to tie it in. I'm a naturally awkward person. So like being able to naturally tie in, how do I introduce my portfolio as well in the middle of an interview? I think that's an important like point to make. Anybody want to take that one and run?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that comes up with portfolios, especially in interviews, is, to me, I feel like it's kind of on the interviewer themselves to see that, and if they have questions on it, to present the questions to the interviewee. I don't know the proper way to interject it if you were going to. I wouldn't see particularly a problem. You could reference that portfolio, say if they have a question on your skills. Say, for example, if I asked someone, and I'll just reference networking here because I know networking primarily. If I have a route flap between these two BGP routers, what's the troubleshooting process? And if they said to me, well, I have this lab or this portfolio that I've set up, and this is what I have currently, and this is how I've done things, I could see that being an option to present that information to me.
Yep.
I think
the best way I've seen that naturally done is that way. But go ahead, AJ. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with Hollis there that like it kind of on the interview, but maybe I think if you're someone with a portfolio, your goal should be that before the interview, it's known that this exists, and you're kind of hoping to influence the process to get asked about this. So even if it, going back to, if your resume makes it through the system and becomes a piece of the story, it should be on there. And then your first kind of initial screen with the HR person, like, it's like, hey, like, you want to mention that so that they go to the hiring manager and say, this person has a portfolio. In your follow-up email, hey, you can take a look at my portfolio here. I mentioned it on our call. Here's some of the projects I have. So I think it's on the interviewee to make sure that it's exposed. But then if I'm an interviewer and I'm the hiring manager, that might take, if I know you have that might be the whole conversation, because it gives me much more to talk about than the typical questions that sometimes people can trick and seem really good, and if you don't really know what you're getting. So I would say, like, try your best to make it known so that it's a natural part of the conversation versus you having to kind of force feed it. And then, I mean, if you have to talk about it, you weave it into the stories. You're going to get asked questions about, hey, how would you approach that situation? Or tell me what you know about OSCAL. Tell me what you know about this framework. It's like, oh, funny you ask. I just was doing X, Y, and Z on that particular framework on my portfolio. I would love to show it to you. I'll drop a link here in the chat. And then it's like, oh, you have a portfolio. Tell me more about that. Why? So I think that's where being intentional about what you work on from a portfolio perspective is key. Because if I'm trying to go get these jobs, I'm trying to get into networking in Hollis's world, there's certain things you probably should know that you're working on and that are going to come up in an interview, especially if you're like, I'm targeting these type of companies in this industry. All right, well, you know that most of those companies are hosted on this cloud provider, or most of these companies are doing this. So go do some stuff in that area so that when the question comes up, you can point back to your portfolio, especially if you're someone without the experience. I think that's where it comes in too. But this also goes back to learning and building in public. If you're learning and building in public, chances are the interview that you received came from that learning and building in public. And I think that's been the story for me, where my portfolio essentially has become Google. If you search my name, you'll find a lot of stuff that I've done. There's a lot of evidence out there of what I've done, and that happens over time when you're starting to learn and build in public. When you're sharing your work, you're sharing that journey. And ideally, again, if you're doing it right, the portfolio is a natural thing that the interviewer is going to pull on because they've seen it, they heard about it. It's something that they're excited to talk about.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Jules, you've been a bit quiet. Do you have any thoughts?
So specifically from my perspective, where I come from, a project management background, a legal background, I have no code that I've created to my name. How do GRC professionals showcase their expertise in a portfolio without that background?
Yeah, I think it's there's scenarios where you can talk about and maybe sanitize some of the details. And I think it whatever format that may be in, you can still put like, hey, problem, my approach, challenges, solution. Like the same way you would talk about it in a interview, it's more of a longer version of that. And I think I think if you're able to tie, if we think about project management for as an example, right? There's some project management principles that exist out there that people will know to pull on. They may ask you like, how do you handle stakeholders? How do you handle phases and staying on schedule? And you could have scenario-based examples. And really, I think in that world, it's showing your thought process. And that's what a lot of the coding portfolio types are on the technical side. Again, if I look at someone's code, I'm not, I mean, I care, whatever, like I'm going to look at it. I really want to know how you thought about doing that. Like that's the thing. So I think if you're able to write down and show your thoughts and show like, all right, here's how I approach said situation. And then it's the same conversation, I think, Jules, where it's like, you're in an interview, you're getting asked like, hey, well, how do you handle a situation where a stakeholder just is non-responsive? They stop responding to you and they're a key personnel. And it's something that every PM has probably dealt with. And you're like, oh, funny you ask. I actually just wrote about this on my blog or whatever, where I talked about this thing. So I think it's the same journey. It's like, how do I share my thought process at solving common problems that exist in the world that I'm trying to go into?
Absolutely. I was, one of my thoughts were, do blog articles, write-ups, and case studies belong in a portfolio, where you're going against people who, link to their GitHub. And I think that there's a lot of folks' story to tell outside of, the hands-on keyboard technical skills. And especially company blogs are a great place to start. I don't have a blog of my own, but if you search my name, you'll see blog articles I've written for companies. And eventually, I could have a blog of my own. I'm on, I come on this podcast, and it does come naturally before I've even thought about the word portfolio. It's already started. So just taking those opportunities that are offered to you to write an article, even if it's something you know nothing about, learn about it and then write it.
Right. And I would say too, like a funny thing happened when I was a few weeks ago. I think it was during the process of me maybe a few months ago or a month or so ago joining Acquia. I was doing some research, and one of the links that I received in my research using ChatGPT's deep research was a link to Chris Hughes's GitHub that had some details about, I think, federal compliance or something, but it's not technical at all. Like I'll find it for you, Jules. It's just a bunch of markdown and him just writing. And that was a resource that ChatGPT found to help educate me on this topic. And it's like, again, like that's a way where GitHub, because whether it's GitHub, Substack, Medium, you leverage the power of these platforms. Your information starts to get out there a lot faster than, if you're somewhere else. So I think I was there. I used to kind of have this trepidation towards GitHub of like, before I kind of got deep into engineering, I was like, I don't know what's going on over there and I don't want to go over there. But I think the more, and this is my goal too with this GRC portfolio thing, is exposing GRC professionals to GitHub and showing them that it's more than just code. There's so much more, helps you organize things, organize your work, X, Y, and Z, and there's more things that you can do on there. But to your point, Jules, like I think what you're doing is already a start, like writing articles at the companies you're at, hopping on podcasts, like starting to build that digital footprint around the topics you care about helps you stand out. Because again, it's like, I know one thing I do for sure is I go to people's LinkedIn when I'm interviewing, go check out the LinkedIn. And if you go to someone's LinkedIn, the first thing you're going to see is that activity. It's going to show you, what are they up to? What are the things they've recently done? Oh, this person hasn't posted in 365 days. The person that I'm interviewing next, though, super active. I just saw them talk here. I saw them write an article here. I saw them do this podcast. I'm a little bit, whether or not that's going to move the needle on the actual interview, who knows? But I'm probably a little bit more excited to talk to that person. And I have more things to talk about because I can see more of the activities, things that they're doing. So I think when I think about portfolio, it's more than what you wrote, right? It's more than what I'm putting together. I think that's an important part and you can show some really good skills, but it's about your presence, right? It's like where are you spending your energy and time? That again, I'm not telling people, and I don't want anybody to take this because I think a lot of job searchers feel this pain of like, man, it feels like I got to work before the job. I got to do all this work just to get the job. And I'm not telling people to like get a full-time job to get a job, but you have to find a way to stand out. Like you're trying to come into a field where it is high demand. A lot of people want to get into this, good pay, good benefits, good work-life balance. So it's not easy. And there's a reason for that. So if you understand like, hey, I'm going up against 100 people, a new role opens up, you won't believe the amount of applicants that come in the matter of hours. How do you stand out? What's your plan? And I think this is a plan of like, all right, let me show that there's more to me than the resume, going back to your point, Jules. Like there's more than just what's on this paper.
So I do want to interject with a question for you because like, I think we've all experienced it from time to time. So, and especially like as a junior, but like even in like mid-level roles and stuff like that, I think there have been times where I'm like, I don't have anything to write about that I think anybody would find interesting. And then you go and have conversations with people and they're like, oh, that'd be so interesting. Why don't you write a blog? And I'm like, well, because I don't know that I should be like, what would be some advice you would tell to someone who is like new or even like, level 2, level 3 kind of mid-career, like how do you come up with those ideas or you just throw a bunch of ideas to the wall?
Yeah, I would say there's 3 easy threads to pull on. I tell people this a lot when people I'm mentoring of building content and writing content on LinkedIn. The first and easiest way to figure out what to write about, find a newsletter that is about the topic you're interested in, security, networking, whatever it may be, and read that newsletter. Literally, don't just subscribe and then get the email and delete it, but read the email, click the links, actually read the articles. There will be one article in that email that says, you say, oh, wow, that's interesting. That's content. It doesn't matter if you know exactly everything they're talking about. It doesn't matter if you agree with it. Sometimes the best content is when you disagree with it. Just the fact, and one of the things I told people this is that most people in our world today, because of how much information we have, are lazy. They won't read the articles. So if you go to LinkedIn and you post a summary of what you read, the key takeaways about an article, you now have content that people will read because they're just lazy. They're not going to read the whole article. And now you, because you're subscribed, to this newsletter, people treat you as a source of truth. They're like, oh, Natalie's the security person because every Monday I'm getting a new insight into something, and you're just pulling it from a newsletter. Easiest way to start to build that muscle. The second thing I would say is think about the last 6 months of your work life. What was some of the challenges? What were some of the wins? There's a story there, or 2, or 3, or 10. There's a lot of stories there of things that you've done that relate. And one of the things I would say there is a lot of times people, and I used to feel the same way before I started building my brand, I was like, oh, nobody would care about that. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that in this framework you do X, or in project management you do Y. You'll be surprised at how much the most basic content does well. Because a lot of people are either faking out there and they don't know the basics, or it's a great refresher. It's like, oh yeah, that's a good point. I remember that. Or at a minimum, it's the easiest thing to agree on. So people are going to support you because it's like, yeah, she's right. That is the basics of what you have to do. And then the last thing I would say is learning. Share that you're learning. Literally, you don't have to say, I know this. I'm trying to learn AWS X. Here's what I just did last week. I was trying to set up this S3 bucket with encryption and I just couldn't figure it out. It killed me. And here's what I'm in the middle. That is, again, content and a story that shows you that journey of learning in public, because you're going to be able to point to 2 months from now where like, man, you can see on my LinkedIn, I was talking about not even being able to set an S3 bucket up, and now I just automated evidence using S3 Security Hub X, Y, and Z. And you start to see that journey. But a lot of times people just show up with all the skills at the end, and they don't show that, hey, I was struggling with this 2 months ago. And that's a valuable piece of data, because it shows in 2 months you were able to learn so much and go from here to here. That's what I want to see as a hiring manager. It's like, great. But I think that's the key, is like, you have to be comfortable sharing your learning. So those are the 3 threads I would say, is like, read articles and then just regurgitate the information, share it out with other people to say what you think. Think about things that you've experienced in your job, and then learn in public. There's 3 easy ways to not have to think about content. The other thing I will say that is a emotional aspect of content creation that I think a lot of people get tripped up on. It's very nerve-wracking to post. I know it. I hate it. And you're like, AJ, you post every day. Like, yes, because I schedule my post.
Automated.
If you ask me to post in the morning, I will find a reason to talk myself out of it every time. Yep. Oh, they don't care about it. I need to change that word. I need to change that. Oh, should I do an emoji? Should I do this? Oh my God, are they going to think AI wrote it? Like, all of these things go through my head. And so I have to sit down on the weekend and schedule it in advance. So then when I log into LinkedIn in the morning, I'm like, what did I say? Like, I must have felt some type of way when I wrote that one. But it gets away of that emotional aspect. So I think do whatever you can to protect yourself from yourself, because those emotions do come out when you're in the early days of content creation.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things that I've been watching you do this for a while, I feel like, is you'll just like put things in a notes app on your phone, you'll screenshot it, and that's what you post. Like, super simple, but at the same time, get your points across. And like, do you just like, as you're thinking of it, just like write it down? You're like, oh, that'll be great, post one day.
Yeah, I literally did that today. I was on a run. And I had this thought, and I was like, I can't lose this. So I pulled my phone out, and I was just like, deep work, LinkedIn. And I'm going to be able to go back to that and know what I want to talk about in the future. But yeah, it happens a lot like that, where it's like a moment of inspiration. And I'm like, you don't have to write the post right now. Just write down the idea, and then you can come back to it when and I call them like my content creation windows. I play some music. I usually do it when the sun's out, and I'm like, all right, get in the right zone. And I just try to crank out as much content as I can in like an hour time frame, schedule it all out, and then I'll do it again next Sunday. And just keep kind of building that rhythm. But a lot of times what I'll do is I'm going back and looking through my notes of like little ideas I've had. I'm like, oh yeah. Or a lot of things what I'll do, and I tell this to people too, on LinkedIn specifically, one way you can find your voice to get comfortable posting is commenting. Comment on other people's posts.
That's exactly how I did it.
It makes you, doesn't it make you feel comfortable? You're like, oh, okay. Like you start to see people like your comments, and you're like, okay, I feel more comfortable about this. It's not just me on my own speaking out there.
Well, and it's not me necessarily putting myself fully out there for the ridicule too. Like, people can still disagree with me, but we can be respectfully disagreeing in comments and understanding why one another. Like, I've seen so many times where there's like a new perspective that has been thrown in. My first podcast was like literally founded in the comment section of LinkedIn.
Yep. Some of my best posts on LinkedIn came from a comment I left that I then turned that comment into a post, because I commented, a bunch of people liked it, and I'm like, well, I didn't think that was an important topic people cared about, but apparently people care about this topic, so I'm probably going to post about it later. And it's just like, it's a great testing ground of is what I want to talk about important, because you'll find out pretty quickly. Either the author of the post will respond to you and be like, hey, absolutely, I agree. Or other people are going to like it and respond. Or other people are going to jump in, like you said, and disagree with you, which again, that's not bad. I think a lot of times we think if someone disagrees with me, it's bad. It's not. It's conversation. It's conversation. You're not going to get everything right. Some people are, there's especially in our field, there's 1,000 ways to do things. And that's fine.
Yeah.
And people are going to have opinions. A lot of times those opinions drive more interactions on the more negative opinion drives more interactions on your stuff too. I find that when somebody like leaves a nasty comment on something, I'm like, oh, this post is going to do well now because everybody's going to have eyes on it.
I feel there are some content creators out there that literally do it just for the tea like that. And just like, yep, here we go.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one of the best ways that I found, especially for me being a little odd, a little awkward, like going out on my own was like a big leap at first. So like being in the comment section, I lived in comments for years. I actually used to recruit people out of comment sections too for my when Hollis and I worked together.
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to draw back when you mentioned being intentional earlier with posting and kind of gaining that confidence. I think what some people miss is being intentional with it. I think if you can't find that niche or that area that you find that confidence in, you're gonna generally kind of stumble and try maybe be a little lackluster. But I think being intentional will help you build that confidence so that you can make these comments, build these posts, make this content, and it'll drive you further, right? And being intentional will take your learning further too, whatever focus area you choose to be in. So I really just want to drive like the intentional point there. So
yeah, I think there's an aspect of intentionally building your audience too. A lot of times people will say like, I'm going to start posting on LinkedIn. And they start posting, but everybody they're connected to are people from their like childhood, their high schools, their colleges. And it's people that don't care about what you're working in. They're lawyers, they're somewhere, they're in a whole nother field. So you're coming in like hot, cybersecurity, this, networking, this. And you got your buddies that are like, hey man, that's cool, but I don't care. That has nothing to do with what I'm doing. So you have to be intentional about who are you connected to? Who are you following? Who are the people that are going to see your content? Because if they are in a whole nother world, it's not your content that's doing bad. It's just you went to a project management conference and you're talking about security engineering. Those folks, or you went to a lawyer conference and you're talking about project management, whatever it is, like you're just not on topic with the people that you're connected to. And I think that's what discourages a lot of people because they start and they're like, oh, my post didn't do well. And it's like, well, let's step back a little bit. Let's before we quit, let's think about who we're talking to. And I think to your point, Hollis, like that's another aspect of being intentional. Intentionally figure out who your audience is currently and who are you going to be talking to in the future, and then build your network around there. You'll be surprised at how many second degree connections, how many people that you're one person away connected to in the field that you're interested in. Chances are there's a ton of people that you can build your network around that are doing the things that you're interested in, and then they're going to be interested in the things you're talking about. I would also say like, a lot of people go off and like, I'm going to connect with every recruiter in the world. I don't want to talk bad about recruiters. I think they play a very important role in the life cycle of getting people hired. However, those are not the people that are going to help you skip the process and go around the ATSs, et cetera. It's the people in the roles that you want to show that knowledge to. Because a lot of times those recruiters, for better or worse, don't really know a lot of the details of what you're talking about. They have some initial checklists, some initial questions to go off of to say, does this person fit? So you're not going to get the bang for your buck of being connected to every recruiter in the world. If you want to be a GRC professional, find people in GRC and make sure that those people, because then now when you start talking about GRC, if I'm in GRC, I just connected with somebody new, I see that I'm like, oh, wow, nice. I'm gonna like that. I'm gonna talk. That's right up my alley. That's what I care about. But if I connect with you and you're just like all over the place, like very quickly, one, LinkedIn will stop showing me your content because like, hey, he doesn't care about that. Second, I'm not gonna care about it either. But I probably don't know what you're talking about. Like, just it's not even anything against you. It's just like I don't know that, so I don't know if it's good or bad. I don't know if what you're saying is true or not. So I'm gonna stay away. So I think going back to your point, Hollis, like intentionality is so key across all of this. Like you have to understand that you can't just like throw stuff into the ether. There's already a lot of noise out there. So how do you make sure that what you're doing is having the biggest impact? A lot of people get so caught up on number of followers, X, Y, and Z, number of likes, all of this stuff. None of that's important to me. I always tell people, ignore the results for the first 90 days. Figure out your consistency, figure out your themes, build your audience, and don't care about results. I can go back to the earliest days of me building my brand on LinkedIn. I had a post that had 1 like, it was me, 4 views, probably all me. And it's just like, that's where you have to start. Like, you just, sometimes you're just gonna have to. I was still building up my audience, and a lot of times I think I see it so many times, people are going and they stop, and I'm like, you were so close. You just had to bust through that wall of like pushing through the uncomfortable part. So I have this rule of like, anytime I start something new, I ignore the results for the first 90 days. Whether it's working out, whatever it is, I'm just like, I can't trust my human instinct in these first 90 days, because my human instinct is going to tell me, stop, don't worry about it, don't keep. And it's always after like day 91, there's a breakthrough. Every time I've done this, it's like, oh, that's what I was waiting for. Okay, cool. And it's become like a reinforcing loop for me. But yeah, I think that goes back to intentionality, Holland. It's like, you gotta really think about the whys, why you're doing things.
And also to tie into intentionality, I learned from, shout out to Meryl Vernon on this one, on this hit of knowing your brand archetype, because that is very, very important. There's a quiz, go take it. It's a lot of fun and is scary accurate.
Yeah.
I haven't taken that, so I'm going to be doing that right after this.
Yeah, because it will help you identify the people in cybersecurity that you're more likely to, bring naturally into your kind of like into your content, the people that are going to enjoy reading your content and stuff like that. So it kind of really like breaks that down a little bit.
Yeah.
And then you got to let us know what your brand is.
I'm gonna have to try that out too. I don't think
back.
I've done that, but Meryl's my buddy, so if Meryl said to do it, then I'll do it.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think that's a good thing to do. And like for me, like I've kind of said, like, all right, on LinkedIn, I'm gonna post about GRC, I'm gonna post about some AI stuff, and I'm gonna post about mental health. And I kind of stay in those lanes. Like those are kind of my lanes. Which again, the focus helps me produce content. Because I'm not pulling from like random, like, what should I talk about today? And I'm like searching the internet for this. But I know like, all right. And then when you know your kind of pillars of content is what I call them, it's very easy to throughout the day as you're talking about things to figure out what or doing things. It's like, oh, that's something I can talk about because it fits. You'll start to have that mental model to connect the dots on those things. And I think it all goes back into that of like, all right, as a brand, I want to be X. These are the people that I know I'm going to resonate with. Here's the topics I know I'm going to talk about. And then once you kind of have that framework, content creation becomes easy. It's like, oh, I know exactly what I'm going to talk about in these areas, because chances are the pillars that you pick, you already have an opinion on. You already are opinionated on it. So it's like, just share that opinion. And I think that was actually a valuable lesson I learned in my early content creation days. I was writing articles and blogs in the early days of Bite Check, the company I started, trying to build up my credibility as a founder. And I wrote an article for, the name of the blog slips my mind now. Info Security. It's a blog out of the UK. And the editor wrote me back and he said, hey man, this is great information, very educational, but I don't know what you think. And I was like, man, somebody cares what I think? Like, I thought they just wanted me to educate. Like, I thought they just wanted me to like tell people about this AWS service, not what do I. And that opened my eyes to like, you can be comfortable sharing what you think. Like you're at that point. And I wasn't that confident yet in myself and where I was at. So I was like, I don't know if like my opinion matters on this. Like I will let other people make the opinion. But that was a big moment to me, because he's like, I don't even want to publish this without your thoughts. Like I need to know what you think. Like anybody can go read AWS documentation and find out what this stuff does. But what do you think? How does it apply to what you're doing? And I think that was a lesson for me that I had to learn. And I would say, don't let anybody else tell you that. To people that are watching this. Like, don't let somebody tell you like, I care about what you think. Like what you think matters. It's important. Your opinion matters. And just share your opinion. You'll be surprised at either how many people agree with your opinion, or, just like the thoughts around it. And you sharing your opinion will start to make you learn this stuff more. If you see something about some tech that you're learning about or something in the field and you're like, I have an opinion on that, chances are, especially people that work in our field, you're going to go do a little bit of research on your opinion on that and try to either refute yourself or strengthen up your argument. That is learning. That's learning right there. So just having an opinion helps you build up that muscle. But that was a big moment for me when somebody was like, no, tell me what you think. I was like, me? You want to know what I think? Okay, great. That's awesome.
Yes, that is always like the best. I had when someone sees you and they see the potential in you, you're just like, well, why do you care about what I think? And then they're like, but but you're really great. Like, why wouldn't I care? And I'm like, but no, go ask Jules what she thinks. Jules, what do you think? Hollis, anything you want to add in?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought we were waiting.
We kind of went off on a tangent about content creation, so my bad.
Yeah, no, you're good. So what I was actually thinking about was when you're making that content or producing content. Man, I just had a brain slip. When people look at, I got it now. I remembered it. When you're looking at your learning or whatever tools we have, a lot of what IT is we think it's just this one thing, because a lot of the stuff that's built around is RFCs. It's very just factual based. It's this one certain thing. But what people don't realize is that we have multiple vendors. Vendors do their own thing with these RFCs, implement different ways to do things. So it's on you to have an opinion, like you said, of what that service is, how it works, what it does. And if it drives business, if it doesn't drive business, if it does something for you that does the other thing doesn't, right? One of the examples that I can bring up, and I'm referencing that network again, Cisco likes to implement their own things into BGP, right? So they use weight, and weight is just something that applies specifically to a Cisco router. Arista doesn't use it. Dell doesn't use it. It's just Cisco. Do I think it's a great thing? Yes. So if you have an opinion on it, I mean, put it out there. It's something that's going to get you noticed, and I'd prefer someone to tell me why I'm wrong than why I'm right. So,
well, and also, like, why do you think that it's a good thing? Because you might educate somebody else in that process. That's really where you're going to actually help feed that knowledge back in without even realizing that you're doing it. Like, tell me why you think it's great so I can help inform my opinion a little bit more. Cause like, you have people in the industry, they like literally are like human seams. They just like take in a bunch of information. They make their, like, they do their brain work, and then they come back and they're like, okay, I've correlated all this information, and now here's my opinion based on all these other people's like opinions and like the back by the research and all that. So
yep. Yeah, I think it's a good point around vendors. Like in the technology space, there's so many vendors that do similar things, and there's a new startup every day that's trying to disrupt the big guys. So there's a very easy thing to do is learn one of the tools out there, and guess what? You now have an opinion on that tool because it's the one tool that you do know. And like for me, it was AWS. It was like, yeah, Azure exists, GCP exists. I could try to go learn all three cloud providers, or I could just say, you know what? It's enough market share. I probably can get a job if I learn this tool. I'm just going to go all in on this one so that I have an opinion and that I can speak and be intelligent about this. And that was, Hollis, I think it's such a good point. Another one that I think about is like, if you just think about the amount of vendors that are out there, they all kind of do. AWS and Azure are the same thing, cloud computing providers. But from the way they even name their services to everything, there's some minor things that are differences. And like, yeah, somebody that does with AWS can go into an Azure account and probably figure it out in a fairly decent time. However,
I think they might be screaming a little bit here and there, like,
I mean,
why would you put this, please?
I get so every time I use Azure, I'm just like, it's like I need to go to therapy afterwards and call my therapist and say I'm not in a good place. I just had to use Microsoft Azure, but whatever. Like that's just my opinion. Like it's not fact, but I have that opinion, and I have it because of lived experiences. And I think that's the part about opinions that comes out. It's like you have a reason for that opinion, so share it. Right or wrong is up to whoever. Who cares if it's right or wrong? It's your opinion. That's all that matters.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the big argument on what Linux distribution you use, right? Like, sure, I could say I run Mint, but if you tell me to use Fedora, I might look at you weird. But I mean, that's on you, right?
All right. So we talk about like kind of like content and building a portfolio, and you said like GitHub is a place where you like highly recommend people kind of like store all that data. You're coming out with a template hopefully so that people can kind of like make sense of how to store the data, it sounds like.
Yep.
What do you think are some key elements that kind of really highlight your portfolio? If you have like a bunch of pieces of content, a bunch of different labs that you can speak to, like how would you recommend, like what would you go through and highlight, and how would you kind of recommend like strategizing that?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what we were talking about, intention, right? It's like, all right, where are you trying to go? What's next for you in your career journey? Are you in a mid-level role that you're trying to become a manager? Are you in a role that requires some technical skills? Or are you in a role that you think as you move up you're going to need more technical skills? Or are you just trying to break in? It depends on where you're at. And then I think the labs that you do, and then also like on any site, whether you use GitHub or whatever, there's ways that you can surface the most important content up front. And you can, like on GitHub, you can pin certain repos to your page and show those and say like, hey, these are the ones that are most important. So I would say it goes to intent. Like, it's like, what's the goal here? And it's similar to like the comment we used to hear about, and I mean, probably still is true, of like, you got to tweak your resume for every job, right? Like you got to like change the wording, and that's a very hard thing to do for somebody that's just like applying for jobs. For every single job, it feels like a really hard thing to do. What I would say is invest the time that you're probably going to invest in tweaking your resume for every job, and just have your portfolio match the jobs that you're trying to get. One easy way to figure out what's important to focus on and what should I do: find 10 job postings of jobs that you want, and go look at the qualifications. Go look at what they're saying that's important. Go look at the tools that they're saying. If all 10 of the job titles that you're looking for, if it's all GRC engineering and every company you look for mentions AWS, guess where you're probably going to have most of your labs at? On AWS. Or if you're hiring for networking roles and everybody's talking about Cisco routers, you probably should do something with Cisco routers. Like that's your trigger. So what I say is don't suffer in silence. Don't like guess. don't try to like figure this out and lick your finger and put your finger in there and say, I think I should do a lab about this. Like, be intentional about figuring out what are the jobs that I want and what are the skills that they're talking about in their postings, or look at a profile. You see my job title now is Director of GRC Engineering. Go look at the things that I know how to do or whatever it is, and say like, all right, it looks like AJ has spent time in AWS doing some Python stuff, whatever it may be. Those are skills that I probably need to talk about. And then you can start to pattern match across people in the industry too. It's like, oh, wow, these 5 people all do this thing and they're in the role that I want. Chances are that's what you need to work on and that's what you need to focus on. So the answers to the tests are actually out there, I think. So I think your portfolio probably, it needs to be a living, breathing document, similar to me, like your LinkedIn. Your LinkedIn to me is way better than a resume because it's live. I know not your last job. I know what you were talking about last week, which is probably much more relevant to me. Same with your portfolio. Right now, if I'm a mid-level, I could build a portfolio all around X, whatever it may be. But then maybe a year from now, I'm like, you know what? That last year I grew so much. My next journey is going into this world. So I'm going to switch around my portfolio. I'm going to still keep those projects, but the projects I'm focusing on and highlighting are the ones that are going to lead me to my next opportunity. And that, I think it promotes this constant learning that is required for our profession, and being in tech, is that you have to be willing to consistently learn. There's always going to be terms, technologies that you don't know, and having a portfolio that you're constantly thinking about, all right, I know I want to go here. What are some of the things that I should be working on to get there, is a great way to keep that learning muscle building.
That's awesome advice.
So
Awesome.
Typical consultant answer of it depends. Long answer.
Jules Hollis, do you have anything else that you want to ask? I know I stole a lot of time with questions, so my bad. But they were good questions, I felt. So
yeah, no, I think it was great. I think it's been a fantastic discussion on these portfolios. I think there's been some more perspectives brought out, rehashes of old things on portfolios, and some new things brought out. But at the kind of end of the stick, right? Portfolio is going to be what is you, right? And what is your learning and how you present yourself. So yeah, be you in it. And you could say y'all every now and then. It doesn't hurt.
No,
AJ.
just to
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Jules. No, go ahead.
it just really gives you the opportunity to take control over, OSINT. Someone's going to put your name into a search engine and you're going to be able to tell them what you want them to see.
Exactly.
And such a good opportunity to really be noticed, even not even, for connections that you're going to make on LinkedIn, but for, the cold kind of shots that you take, that someone sees your resume and they Google you and there you are. And you get to show them exactly what you want them to see. That's such a powerful tool.
Yeah. AJ, anything that we missed talking about that you want to still hit on?
Well, one thing that I have a requirement that in every interview that I do, I have to talk about mental health because I think it's just such an important topic. So I would just say, like, I think in this world, in this technology world that we live in, that can be very stressful. Our jobs can get stressful, and we do very important work. It's so important to take care of ourselves in the world of remote work. It's so easy to open up your laptop and just grind away all the time, and the lines between work and life have blurred significantly over the last 5 years since COVID. So I think if folks are listening to this, they're obviously interested in this field or have some desire to do something in this field. And I would say the one thing that you can do to guarantee success is to think about your mental health and make sure that you're right up here, because the work it can be hard, it can be taxing, but if you have that mental clarity, if you're taking care of yourself, if you're getting good sleep, if you're taking space for yourself, you're stepping away from the computer, you're going to be so much more effective at your job. And I think a lot of people focus, especially in the journey of breaking in, they're just like, I gotta go hard, I gotta do all of these things. And then you break in and you're burnt out. It's like you did all this work to get the job, and then you get the job and you're burned out because you didn't think about your mental health, and now you're going through a whole nother cycle of things in the job. And I would just caution everybody, both folks breaking in, folks currently in, do not overlook the importance of your mental health. It's something that is so, so important for not just what we do, but just as humans. Like we are people, creatures that are designed for community, designed to experience life. We're not designed to sit behind computers all day. That's not what our species was designed to do. We were not designed to be sedentary species. So that means that, like, you have to be intentional in this field about taking care of yourself. So I would just say, whether you're breaking in or currently in cybersecurity, it's an important thing to take care of your mental health. It's why I talk about it. I think more leaders should be open about it, because it will give the space for people on their team to talk about it as well. But I think leaders oftentimes try to portray everything's fine, and everything's not fine. Trust me, at the leadership level, it's not. It's chaos up there. It is.
I love when someone in leadership just throws an "it's on fire" meme in chat.
Because it is.
Just like,
it is.
Cool. Thanks. Yes, this is on fire. I'm gonna put the fire over here with the other fire.
Exactly. So yeah, that's the only thing I would add, is just like, take care of your mental health. It's super important. I talk a lot about mental health on LinkedIn because of that. I think it's something that more men need to speak about as well. I think a lot of men that are not just in our industry, but in general, I fight with it in my family, with my brothers, my dads, that I try to talk to them about this stuff. Get out of here, whatever. You can't talk to me about that. My dad's a Marine, so that's where some of that comes from. But yeah, it's just an important topic to me. I firmly believe there's nothing that I can do in my life and find the success I want if I'm not right up here mentally. And I think my mental health, my improvement in my mental health has been a direct reflection of my success in my career. The more I focus on my mental health, the more I've achieved. It's been a 1-to-1 correlation. So if that's not motivation to do it, I don't know what is, other than taking care of yourself.
Well, and I also challenge leaders out there, because this is a leadership podcast. So leaders out there, especially for your new folks that are trying to break in, kind of understanding that, like, you need to also kind of like I mean, there were times when I had apprentices that were trying to work over a certain number of hours, and I was like, no, you need to go away. Please go log off now. Like, go do something fun for you, because like you kind of need to teach them the balance of making sure they're not just burning out as soon as they get their foot in that door, and like really helping mentor them into, whether you're like a direct mentor or just somebody that's like, hey, just like keep that in mind. And then another conversation I had lately about mental health was, it wasn't really about mental health, but it kind of really reframed my thinking, which helped my mental health a lot, was looking at failure as like another stepping stone towards your end goal, rather than it being a failure. It doesn't have to be a hard set failure, kind of like pivoting with it and like being more fluid with it.
Yep. A saying that I like to say about that is you either win or you learn. It's only two options. There's no failure, there's no losing. You win or you learn. And I've learned a lot. I'll say that.
Some of the
Awesome.
recommendations that I would give people for those mental health activities, because it took me a little while to find them. If you can take the time, I actually got inspired by a dude named Derek Andrews on here. He does bird watching. And so I started gardening more. Of course, I lift as well, but that kind of turned into like a lifestyle thing. But go outside. I hate to say touch grass, but touch grass, right? Or
seriously,
go watch the birds.
Breathe the air.
Yeah.
Yes.
One of the most fun things, just watching them. The other day, I saw some blue jays in the backyard, and like watching them do their dance and talk to each other. It can be one of the most like awe-inspiring and kind of fun things, right? I say a lot of birds sound like me on a random day, but
the thing with bird watching, gardening, Jules, what you said, just going outside and breathing, I think that is so helpful for your mental health. Is it gets you away from all of the other things that are going on in your head. It's a reprieve, it's a break, and it's just like you're focused on these birds. They're doing their dance, they're talking. You're outside, you're feeling that, or Jules, you're outside, and you're just like, man, like in your case, it's cold out here. it's cold, but you're like seeing that. But it's that moment is you being free from everything else going on in your life, and the more times you can find that space. I was literally going through this just a couple of days ago, and I was trying to build this thing that we're working on at the company. And I stepped away from the computer, and as soon as I stepped away, like 10 minutes later, and I started playing with my son, I was like, oh my goodness, the problem that I've been having for the last 10 minutes or the last 10 days shouldn't even be a problem. I'm creating a problem that shouldn't exist because and it literally took me getting away and clearing my mind from the problem to do it. And so many times that happens. So yeah, you both are so right. Like just go experience it. Like just go experience the world, and that gets your mind away from everything else going on.
Live in the presence.
Yes.
Jules, any last, well, I mean, we've done a really great job of doing last thoughts, guys, without me announcing it, but do you have any final thoughts either, Jules? Like, just want to make sure I give you one last time to speak. Good?
Make connections wherever you go.
Okay.
That's
cool. All right. Well, thank you so much, AJ, for hopping on with us. And for everybody else, we will see you in a couple weeks with a really awesome new episode. So hope to see you then. Have a good one.